Joining us now to analyze the coverage in Idaho, Jim Gray, the veteran sportscaster and Fox News contributor, and in New York, Kat Timpf of Fox's Gutfeld Show. Jim, Simone Biles, as we just saw, being called a quitter in some quarters, but many others, especially women, including Michelle Obama, are praising her for walking away. What accounts? What do you make of this media divide?
Well, it's just disappointing. I mean, you have to be at full strength to be able to compete. So mentally, she couldn't line up physically. So, it's not a cause for celebration. This is a great disappointment. I'm sure she didn't work for 5 years to go all the way to Tokyo, a year into a pandemic, put in all of this work and hard effort, be a great champion in the past, to go over there to not be able to compete. So it's just a fact of life. Things don't always work out. And to say that she quit, if she goes out there and lands on her head, she's in serious shape and can injure herself, and only she knows how she feels. So for everybody else to jump in there and say they know better, I don't agree.
Yeah, pundits are very good at they know better. Kat, she had said on Instagram the day before that she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Now you have Piers Morgan writing, are mental health issues now the go-to excuse for any poor performance in elite sport? What a joke. Just admit you did badly. And then Piers got dragged for that. It seems like everybody is using her as a punching bag one way or the other.
Right. I don't think that mental health issues are, a blanket excuse for anything. Look, I have things that I personally have struggled with, and it's been really hard for me to get to work, and I'm proud of myself for pushing through anyway. A few years ago, I was going through a really rough time, but what I do is not gymnastics, as Jim alluded to. She was saying that she had, the twisties, basically. It's where you lose awareness of where you are in the air. I talked to a friend of mine who was on the national team, albeit many years ago. But, this is something that's happened before in the 80s. You look at Julissa Gomez, she was struggling with the vault. She pushed through. She ended up injuring herself so badly that she was paralyzed and ultimately died from those injuries at just 18 years old. When you're talking about gymnastics, it's something where if you don't have the mental, you're not completely there mentally with it, you can absolutely kill yourself. It's completely different than a lot of other things that it's being compared to.
Yeah, the worst thing for a pundit who's having problems is you come and you sound kind of silly on the air.
Right.
Well, Jim, I take your point about all the training that she did and what a crushing disappointment this must be for her to have to walk away from her team. But you look at some of the articles, the New Yorker, the radical courage of Simone Biles. New York Times' Lindsay Krause. Simone Biles just demonstrated a true champion mindset. I've got to ask you, if this was a male athlete, wouldn't people just say he choked?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with gender. I mean, look, we don't celebrate when a guy is injured and misses the Super Bowl. So it's nothing to be celebrated. It's not courageous. She knows her body. She knows her mind, and she couldn't perform. But one of the fundamental tenets, Howard, is to be able to perform under pressure. That's what sports is. That's why we look up to Tom Brady, because he came back down 28-3. That's why we look up to Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan making that shot against Russell in his final play with the Chicago Bulls. So part of sports is being able to handle the pressure. That doesn't mean that if you're mentally not fit and not ready to perform, that you go out and injure yourself to try and prove people you're tough. No, I just don't see it like that.
Yeah, the Texas Deputy Attorney General apologizing for calling Simone Biles a national embarrassment. So, Kat, do you agree that gender is not a factor here with all of these columnists praising Simone Biles, many of them female sports writers? And also, it seems to me one reason that she is getting a lot of praise and has become this huge figure even before the events of the past week is that she's spoken publicly about being one of the hundreds of sexual abuse victims of the heinous gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar, and that took courage.
Right. I think that is the one aspect where I think gender could be at play when we talk about the Me Too movement and Larry Nassar, and she's had, first time competing, in the Olympics where this is all public knowledge. And of course, this is the sort of thing that I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men, because it does and it has, but it more often happens to women. And most women have some experience, certainly not on that level, with But with harassment from, maybe a man who's in position of power over you, it is a very common experience for many women. So I think that part in particular is where the gender could have played a role.
Right, and we saw tennis star Naomi Osaka get some of that criticism when she bowed out of the French Open, didn't want to talk to the press. She at least competed, but then she lost, and then she got a lot of heat in Japan. And sometimes in sports you win, sometimes you lose.